Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, today we have Steve Wells, um, the lovely Steve Wells, joining us and presenting us with what is mindfulness. So, um, I hope you guys enjoy it. We are going to let Steve introduce himself, and then we will go ahead and introduce ourselves to him. But I think he probably knows a couple of us.
Yeah, so I do have a bio, so I will introduce Steve. And I also just want to thank Tara and Lee for suggesting that Steve present us today. When we were talking about programs, when we had made the presentation for, what do single moms need from a support standpoint and our awardees, and all of the tumultuous times we are living in, and people keep referring to self-care and mindfulness, that we wanted to kind of really understand what is mindfulness and what is good for us as individuals and members of Seroptimus. So as Wendy said, it would probably be good for all of us to introduce ourselves. I know Morgan has joined as well. And so I will call on people if you could just introduce yourself, and then I will introduce Steve as our guest speaker. So I'm going in order of how you appear on my screen. So no apparent real order other than Lee, starting with you.
I know
Hi,
her.
everybody. Nice to
Okay.
see you.
Yes.
Thanks.
But
Thanks, sweetie,
Morgan
for-
might not.
Oh, hi, Morgan.
And Bob might not. I see his shoulder.
Yeah.
Well, hi, Kathy. Sorry, let me start over again. I was formerly with a computer company as a manager, and then moved to nonprofit organizations. And I'm looking forward to hearing my handsome husband's talk.
Thanks, Lee. Janine? You're on mute, Janine. Janine, you're on mute.
Never mind. Janine Decker, Human Resources Administrator, and I'm looking forward to hearing your handsome husband's presentation as well.
Terry Parker.
Terry Parker, retired contracts administrator, City of Phoenix. And my husband's over there making our tea right now, Bob Sparks. So he'll be over in a second. And he really needs to learn mindfulness. This administration is taxing his mind.
Thanks, Terry. Karen?
Hi, I'm Karen Kramer. I'm a realtor, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Henrietta?
Henrietta Speedy. Welcome, Steve. Continuing Henrietta Speedy, former CFO, Engineering Services, retired, and look forward to hearing about mindfulness. I never seem to get it right.
Thanks, Henrietta. Lisa?
Lisa Farrar, retired mortgage banker. Welcome to my former Illini speaker today, and welcome to our guest, Morgan. So glad to see you again, Morgan.
All right, Wendy?
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Wendy. This is Wendy. I am Wendy Castaneda, club president of this beautiful club in Phoenix, our beautiful club. Been a member for 5 years. I work in HR as a recruiter for domestic and international workers, specifically J1 and H2B visa workers. And I'm so excited to be here today, seeing Steve present, and also to welcome Morgan back.
Thanks, Wendy. Morgan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Morgan Lopez. I manage a dental practice. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Great, Morgan. Susan?
Hi, Steve. I'm Susan Bolton. I'm a judge on the United States District Court for the District of Arizona.
Thanks, Susan. Kathy?
Kathy Zablisky, recently retired from Phoenix Children's Hospital, and I met Steve and Lee many years ago at Yogapura. Thanks for all you do, Steve.
Kathy. Frankie.
Hi, I'm Frankie James. I worked in healthcare administration for many years. I'm retired, and I'm looking forward to Steve's presentation. I'll never forget the time we went to one of his sessions, and he just calmed all of us down. So I'm ready for this mindfulness, Steve.
Thanks, Frankie. Shelley.
Hello, I'm Shelley Katz. I'm Chief Counsel for Environmental Enforcement at the Arizona Attorney General's Office. Nice to see everybody. I'm going to be turning off my camera because part of my wellness is making sure I eat lunch. So I'm going to be doing that now.
Very good. Thanks, Shelley. And I believe I got everybody. So again, my name's Margie Burke and Tara.
That's all right.
You moved on my screen.
I did that deliberately to trick you.
Thank you.
I wanted to see if you were mindful of it. Just kidding. Tara Jackson, I'm an attorney and nonprofit executive at Arizona Town Hall. And because I'm a recovering type A, I'm also a mindfulness and yoga teacher. It's wonderful to be a student in the room because I need as much practice as everyone else. So good to see you again, Steve.
Thanks, Tara. All right. Did I miss anybody else? All right. So again, I'm Margie Burke and I am your president-elect for the Phoenix Club. I also am the Chief Finance and Operating Officer here at the Desert Botanical Garden. So if I can practice mindfulness in the garden, anyone can. So I'd like to officially welcome Steve. Everybody seems to have a knowing of Steve and Steve knows us, but his official bio, Steve is a licensed professional counselor, a graduate of the Masters of Counseling program at Arizona State University, and was a clinical director at Phoenix Intermountain Counseling, where he supervised and taught in their postgraduate residency program. The residency program focused on mindfulness basic therapies. He began his study of mindfulness when he learned dialectical behavioral therapy, which he has been using with clients and teaching for over 30 years. His experience with mindfulness-based therapies led to the study of yoga and the completion of a 500-hour advanced studies and teacher training program at Yogapura in Phoenix. Subsequently, Steve completed training in Yoga Nidra, which is used to help patients deal with emotional and physical issues through deep meditation. He also completed an intensive program leading to certification in sound energy healing and is a proud member of the SIP book club, just saying. So with that, Steve, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I thought I would start with an example of what mindfulness isn't. And so I got a email from Margie, I think it was 2 nights ago. And so I read the email and it said that I wanted a bio. I haven't done a bio in 20 years. So I started looking frantically through all of my files to find a bio, and I found one and I went through it quickly and then I sent it off to Margie. So this was like at 9 o'clock at night, something like that. And then I looked at what I had sent and it talked about a lot of things that I was doing that I no longer do. So I went back and had to correct some of that. And then Lee looked at it and she said, oh, well, you know, you did this and this. And so then I sent another one off to Margie. And then I sent her an email at about 10 o'clock at night that said, disregard everything that I've already sent you. I will be sending you something in the morning. So that's what I did. So that's what she got. So by the way, it's dialectical behavioral therapy. And I worked at Phoenix Interfaith Counseling. Just just so we get that correct. Okay, so then, so that is not an example of mindfulness. So mindfulness, if I was being mindful, I would have said, okay, I'll just send something in the morning. And then I would have had Lee check it before I sent it. And then she would have sent, because we do that for each other. And I would have had it right the first time. So mindfulness is about, well, I'm going to give you several definitions, some of which, if you're an attorney, you may like. If you're not an attorney, you won't like. But mindfulness first came to the forefront in terms of therapy when it was developed by John Kabat-Zinn. I don't know if any of you know of him, but he was worked at Mass General, and he was working on a way for for patients to deal with whatever it was they were dealing with, whether it was end of life or some kind of serious illness, or having, had an operation or some kind of traumatic event. So what he did was he had them come, and then they would lay on the floor and listen to music sometimes, or other times they would just focus on a particular thing that was going on. And so that was known as mindfulness-based stress reduction. So that's where it started. And at the same time, Marsha Linehan was working on dialectical behavioral therapy, and she actually came at it because part of her training was in behavioral therapy, and the other piece for her was that she spent a lot of time as a Zen Buddhism. So she learned all about meditation and being in the present moment and doing things what she would describe as one, mindfully and non-judgmentally, with acceptance in the present moment. So one of the big things about mindfulness is you have to be able to accept what's going on in the moment, whether you particularly want it to be going on or not. But nevertheless, you have to, what she would get you to do would be to observe and then describe what's going on and then fully participate. So what does it mean to fully participate? Well, if you've ever watched a tennis match and you notice how things go back and forth, people who fully participate are not criticizing themselves every time they miss a shot. They're not thinking about what their opponent, well, they are thinking about what their opponent's doing, but when the ball gets hit, either by them or by the other person, they're fully participating in making sure that they're able to return it and how they're going to return it. We see this a lot in athletics. So mindfulness in athletics is, one other term for it is being in the moment, and or being being in the groove, or there are a lot of different terms for it. So mindfulness is about observing, describing, and participating fully, non-judgmentally. So what does it mean to be judgmental? Well, after I had sent the 3 responses to Margie, I didn't judge myself for being an idiot and doing things the wrong way and not being mindful. I just said, oh, well. And then I said, I'll send it in the morning. So I slept okay. And that's what happened. So I've learned to not, it only took about 80 years, but I learned not to judge myself too much and to just pretty accept that I'm going to screw things up. So that's a good lesson for all of you. Okay. And then we talk about mindfulness in acceptance and commitment therapy, which is actually my favorite kind of therapy. And of course, they like to talk about things very technically in acceptance and commitment therapy. And most of it is based on Eastern philosophical ways of looking at things with a lot of acceptance and a lot of being in the moment. But this is what they say. Can be understood as a collection of related processes that function to undermine the dominance of verbal networks, which I have a coffee cup that says that better, or I used to have a coffee cup that said that better, and the coffee cup said, "Don't believe everything you think." Okay, and then especially involving temporal and evaluative relations. These processes include acceptance, diffusion, which means diffusion is when you have something that's really bothering you, some criticism of yourself or something that you're really, or criticism of others, you diffuse the thoughts. And we'll talk a little bit about one way to do that a little bit later on. And then contact with the present moment and a transcendent sense of self. So transcendent sense of self has to do with understanding that there's a part of you that's transcendent, that there's a part of you that will continue on. And that part of you doesn't have language and doesn't have, it isn't judgmental. It's just really observing. Okay, now if I can get the slide to move, we'll be all set.
It
So
looks,
this is another moment where I don't have to,
so
oh,
it
here we
looks, yeah, at the bottom, you should
at
be
the
able to
bottom.
hit that.
Yeah. So why would someone be mindful? Studies show that a specific application of mindful awareness improves our capacity to regulate emotion, combat emotional reactivity, so you don't start throwing glassware or pots and pans, improve patterns of thinking, and reduce negative mindsets. Negative mindsets usually have to do with yourself or somebody else. So that's why we study mindfulness, or that's why we practice mindfulness. Over thousands of years, various practices have been developed to focus the mind to be able to go from moment to moment experience. So one of the things is meditation. Okay. Meditation is very helpful for improving your mindfulness. It's not mindfulness, though, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Yoga is very good at this, so is Tai Chi and Kui Kong. I'm not sure am I pronouncing that correctly, Tara? Oh, okay.
Oh,
Anyway.
no, I'm here. Sorry, I was eating, so I turned my video off.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if how to pronounce that correctly. That sounds good to me. But
Okay, well then,
yoga nidra though.
from now on, that's what it'll be.
Sounds good.
All right. Mindfulness enhances the body's functioning and promotes healing, increases your immune response. It reduces reactivity to stressful situations and just generally helps with physical well-being. Okay, another way to look at mindfulness, and this is the way Marsha Linehan looks at it, is that we have two minds. So for all the eternities, this is reasonable mind, okay? And that's what generally you have to deal with, is being in your reasonable mind. And then the other piece of that, and the other far extreme, is just when you're an emotional mind, which means you're just reacting. You get very angry, or you get you snap at people on the telephone. I think we've all been there. And then, so you're just letting your emotions run the show. And so what Marcia wanted us to do was move towards wise mind, which says we look at what reasonable mind says, we look at what emotional mind says, and then we make a good decision based on what our gut tells us to do. And mindfulness skills, the first thing is we have the what skills, and the what skills are we observe, we describe, and then we fully participate. And we do that non-judgmentally, one, mindfully, so we're only focused on one thing at a time, and effectively. So what I've found, and what some of you may have found out for yourself, is that it's very difficult to make good decisions when you're concentrating on more than one thing at the same time. So what we want to do is when you're, I have an example of this. When I was way back, when I was in the Navy, I was the officer of the deck and we were doing a gunnery exercise, which means we were at sea. We had 2 other destroyers with us. And then we also had an airplane towing a sleeve that we were shooting at. And so it was my job to be the officer of the deck, which meant I told which way the ship was supposed to turn. I also was a comm officer, so I had to communicate with the plane and with the other ships. And then I also had to pay attention to what the captain was telling me to do. And I wanted to make sure, A, we didn't collide with anybody, and B, that we didn't shoot the plane down. So had all that stuff going on. But one of the things that I was able to do, and I suppose that was one of the few times I was able to do it, was that I was able to act one mindfully. So when I was talking on the radio, I only focused on what I was saying to whoever I was saying it to. When I was telling the steersman what to do, or the helmsman what to do, or whether to increase or decrease speed, or turn to port or turn to starboard, that's the only thing I was focused on. When I was listening to the captain, that was the only thing I was focused on. And when I was ordering the other ships to commence fire or something like that, that was the particular thing. And so obviously that was something that really stuck with me, because I remember it as one times when I was 20 some years old, and I was able to act one mindfully. So again, observe, describe, participate fully, be non-judgmental, be one mindful, and then be effective. So that's the other thing. Think about, before you start yelling at somebody, take a breath, and then think about, what's the effective thing for me to do in this particular situation? So taking a breath is always a good thing to do before you start yelling at somebody. Okay. So another aspect of mindfulness, it was interesting. I had just learned dialectical behavioral therapy, and I was all into the Zen stuff. And then I walked into a yoga studio, or Lee and I walked into a yoga studio, and I ended up, after 5 years of doing yoga, going through this advanced teacher training program. And I went through it not because I particularly wanted to be a yoga teacher, which I did a little bit of, but mainly because I wanted to learn about the philosophy of yoga. And so if you look at the Yoga Sutras, the first thing it says is yoga is the stilling of the fluctuations of the mind. So yoga is about letting your mind just focus on the thing that you're doing. And for those of you that have taken yoga classes, and you'll know that when you're doing a particular pose, your focus is strictly on what you're doing on the mat at that time. You're not thinking about going to get what you're going to go to the store for or the other things you have to do that day. You're trying to have awareness of where your body is and what the pose is that you're supposed to be moving towards. And so when the mind is still, then the seer, the self, abides in its own true nature. So the true self versus the false self. So the false self is easy to define. It's what you think you are. And it's all the thoughts that you have and emotions that you have about yourself and other people. The true self is just the part of you that observes what's going on. And when you actually achieved being solely in your true self, then you have pure divine consciousness, or the other term for that would be enlightenment. Now, I'm not pretending to say that I'm enlightened, because the people that tend to, well, many of the people that say they're enlightened aren't. And there's a lot of books that have been written about enlightenment and whether people actually are enlightened or not. And so what you want to do, and in order to do that, really, you need to go and sit in a cave for 8 hours a day and eat rice, and isolate yourself and meditate for like 8 hours a day. So I don't know if anybody's signing up for that, but I didn't. But there are caves over in India that you can go to, and they'll be happy to have you do that. Okay, so some things that mindfulness is not, okay? Mindfulness is not a skill that you learn in order to reduce your distress. It's not a way to distract yourself from the problems that you're trying to deal with. It's not a means of escaping your pain, mental, physical, and spiritual pain. It's not saying that you aren't going to have those things, because, of course, you will. Oh, and by the way, it's not a way to ensure good things will happen or that you'll become healthy, wealthy, and wise. All right, so being mindful does not ensure that you'll become healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I think most of us have been around long enough to know that really bad things happen to really good people. So there isn't any particular way of living your life so that you don't get hit by the bus. So I often had clients that would say to me, well, are you going to be here for me for as long as it takes for me to get better? And I said, well, that's what my plan is, but I can't account for a bus. So if I get hit by a bus, then you're going to have to find somebody else. Meditation, mindfulness is not meditation, although meditation is a path to helping one to become more mindful. So by practicing meditation, you can increase your ability to be mindful, but meditation itself is not mindfulness. Okay, so what is mindfulness? So this, of course, comes from a presentation that I would give to the people that were residents in our program, where we were teaching them how to do acceptance and commitment therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy. And so we have, this is official stuff. So existing questionnaires reveal 5 factors that cluster for mindfulness. Non-reactivity to inner experience. So when your emotions come up, you don't react to them, you just have them. Observing, noticing, attending to sensations, perceptions, thoughts, and feelings. And we're going to do a little exercise that'll help you do that. Acting with awareness, not on automatic pilot. Concentration, not distraction. So I don't know, have any of you ever been out driving your car on automatic pilot, and you suddenly realize you have no idea where you are because you missed your turn? I had that happen to me one morning when I was out running and I was in a neighborhood and I had no idea. I suddenly realized I had no idea which way home was. So it's easy to be on automatic pilot. It's easy to lose your concentration or be distracted. And so one of the things that I always recommend to clients is that if they walk or run, that most people like to wear earphones and listen to music, or what are those things called, Lee?
Podcast?
Podcasts, or verbal, books that are read to you. And so if you're doing that, you're not focusing on what you're out there doing, which is walking. And so you do that, so you're distracted from the pain that your body's experiencing if you're running or you're walking or doing some kind of other activity. And so what I recommend is that sometime there's 2 different exercises that you can do. So the first exercise is pretty simple. When you get in your car the next time, turn the car on, turn the radio off, and then drive. And experience just driving the car. So you would be driving your car mindfully. Okay? So that's pretty easy. The other thing is that if you're going for a run or you're going for a walk, don't wear earphones. Okay? And just pay attention to your body. So really great athletes, when they're doing things like running marathons, most people are out there trying to think of anything to get away from the physical pain that they're experiencing. What really great runners do is they very much monitor what's going on in their bodies, and they figure out what pace they can handle and when to go and when not to go. And so they're constantly monitoring their respirations and how their legs are feeling and things like that. And then another thing that helps is describing and labeling with words, and not be judgmental of your experience. Okay, whoops, too far. We're not going to do neurobiology today. So the other thing I just wanted to, I guess that's it. So now we're ready for some experiences, okay? Everybody ready for some experiences? All right. So the first one I'm going to, so what you can do is you can just sit comfortably in your chair and allow your eyes to close. And I'm gonna get rid of this. All right, so if you're eating lunch, stop and close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and then let it out with a sigh. And now we're going to do an exercise. So this is an exercise in noticing. So just take a moment and notice how you're sitting. Notice what you're hearing. Notice what you're thinking. Notice what you can taste and smell. Notice what you're seeing. Notice what your mind is telling you. Notice what you are feeling. Notice what you are doing. Notice how you're breathing. And notice what thoughts you are having. So there is a part of you in there that notices everything you see, hear, touch, taste, think, feel, and do in any moment. We don't have a good word for it in common everyday language. I'm going to call it pure awareness. You don't have to call it that. You can call it whatever you want. This pure awareness is silent. It cannot speak or think. It is the place from which you can notice whatever thoughts you have or words you say. So whatever you call it, whatever you say about it, whatever you believe it to be, this is the place from which you can notice those words, thoughts, and beliefs. By now, your mind is probably whirring away in 1,000,000 miles a minute, trying to figure this out. So now notice what your mind is telling you. Now be aware you're noticing. There go your thoughts, and there you are, noticing them. Take a deep breath in, and let it out. And you can open your eyes. Okay, so anybody have any reaction to what we just did?
I would like to share.
Sure.
I'm at work and I had to kind of turn off my screen before because someone was trying to get a hold of me and it made me feel very anxious because um you know, Thursdays from 12 to 1 is my seroptimist time. And I didn't want to be interrupted, and it made me feel like a little bit overwhelmed. And I feel like I was still carrying that when I was able to resume. And right now, I don't know, I just felt like like how you mentioned, maybe like some overwhelming peace, some quietness. I was just hearing the fan in the background of my office just going, keeping it cool. The diffuser, the smell that I haven't, it has oils in it, but I really haven't paid attention to it. I hadn't smelled the scent in a while until right now when I was just, as you were taking us, it felt like almost like a staircase, like higher, higher, more awareness. And that was really nice.
Oh, good. Thank you. Anybody else?
Looked like Henrietta took herself off mute.
Steve, I know it's not to, mindfulness is not to relax us particularly, but it sure did help. I had my legs crossed and I realized that was tensing me up. I had my shoulder, when we first started, my shoulders were up a little high. And when I started to think about it, when you said feel, well, there was a term used. Anyway, I realized that it was I uncrossed my legs, I lowered my shoulders, relaxed, and it really helped the breathing too. So appreciated that.
Oh, good.
Tara, anything?
Did you say Tara?
I did.
I just enjoyed it. It was nice to be on the other end of it, and it really was. And it's a reminder, I think, that of the impactfulness of mindfulness, because even my big lesson when I started studying it was to realize when you're completely focused on what's in front of you, even when it's not positive, like being in a traffic jam, that actually makes you feel better and more because of being in the present moment. It's been shown by science. And what a beautiful, brief, guided meditation there, Steve. I thought, oh, I want to steal some of that for some of my classes. Just the notice, you did the sensations, the smell, the feel. It helps ground you in the moment and to even listen. I also heard the fan in the office that I'm in, and it is very calming. That may not be the goal, Henrietta, but it is where peace and joy come from, is that practice. So thank you, Steve.
Oh, you're very welcome. Anybody else? Okay, so I have another exercise. So this one is to help you stop paying attention to your mind, or to your thoughts, I should say. It is mindfulness, so we have to say thoughts. So this one is called Leaves on a Stream. And so what I'd like you to do is close your eye and just picture yourself sitting under a nice shady tree. And in front of you is a bubbling brook. So you can watch the water as it cascades over the rocks and off out of sight. And then what I'm going to ask you to notice is that there's a light breeze blowing, so it's really a nice day. And some of the breeze is blowing some of the leaves off the tree onto the brook. And then the leaves just float away. And so just picture that you're sitting under this tree and the wind's blowing nicely and the leaves are falling into the brook and then floating along on top of the brook. And then I want you to notice your thoughts. So whatever comes up for you, whether it's a thought about, am I missing lunch, or I really need to finish this by 1 o'clock, or whatever it happens to be, whatever the thoughts are, I'd like you to take that thought and place it on one of those leaves and then watch it move on down the stream until it disappears. And I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do this. So again, thoughts come up. You place them on a leaf and you watch it move on down until it goes away. And then allow yourself to come back to the space that you're in. And then take a nice deep breath in. Let it out with a sigh. And you can open your eye. So any comments on what that experience was like?
I can comment. So first of all, I didn't want to come back when you said come back. And that exercise really helped me to still my thoughts, be it for very brief periods of time where I felt like I wasn't thinking, I was just watching the water. And then of course the brain kicks in and tells you, oh, you're thinking about thinking. But it really did help still the thoughts for just a little bit. So thank you for that.
So this is especially good when you have very long to-do lists and you're constantly thinking about what else you have to do. And so if you just put each to-do on a leaf and let it go down the stream, makes life easier. Anybody else?
Steve?
Mm-hmm.
So First of all, I had to decide what kind of tree it was. I was
Of
really.
course you did.
I know. See, I knew you wouldn't be surprised by that, but I'm like, oh, geez, those maples in the fall, they're so pretty. Maybe an aspen tree. Once I had that settled, then I was good with the leaves. But isn't that funny?
I changed my tree.
Did you change your tree?
I
Yeah.
changed my tree, yes.
Yeah, oh, good. I'm not the only one then.
No,
No.
kindred spirit. So,
Yes.
no, I changed my tree.
What did you end up with?
A weeping willow.
Oh, that's a good one.
So when Steve added the breeze, it was like, oh, then I could see the willow tree. So I changed it.
Okay, anybody else?
Kara?
Yes, Kara.
I just wanted to add something different that I always find interesting about that type of exercise. You can also, if you get past changing or deciding what tree, you can look at what types of ideas keep popping up and you can see patterns. I like to call it software that's in your mind that you may not realize. And you're just kind of watching it. One thing I noticed about myself, and it still holds true for the most part, I tend to think much more in the future. You know, what's the next thing to do? And so that's a pattern that's in my mind, and just that awareness of it, you can decide what you want to do about it. There are some people who think a lot about the past, and that's a pattern as well. Or other things that pop up repeatedly. It gives you this wisdom, this insight when you're observing without judgment. I loved that meditation, Steve. That was perfect. Another one that I do sometimes for kind of the academics in the room, whatever helps you be non-judgmental, is to pretend like you're a scientist and you're watching the thoughts and then you're noting them down in a journal, like, oh, here comes that one again. And so you can be more objective and then just watch what comes up again. It's a different approach with different insights, but I thought that was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Susie.
Well, I had a little problem. And I just got back from a cruise on the Burgundy Canal in France. And so I immediately wasn't looking at a brook. I was looking at my canal and I was sitting under a tree and it was really nice. And I wasn't thinking about anything except seeing my canal and sitting under my tree. And then when you said, then take the thoughts that are in your head and put them on a leaf and send them down the stream. I hadn't been having any thoughts, but you made me have thoughts. And of course, it had to do with work. And I kept sending them down the stream and they kept popping back up again.
That's what they do.
Hmm?
That's what they do.
But I thought I was doing well before you suggested that I had thoughts.
Okay, so you were doing well, and you were doing well when you were having the thoughts. I mean, that would be that would be the purpose of the exercise, is that when thoughts come up, you let them go. And so one of the things that's really interesting, people keep wanting to do mindfulness or meditation the right way, right? There is no right way. Whatever your experience is, that's what your experience is. And accepting in the moment what you're experiencing is what this is all about. And so I want to leave you.
Can I make a quick comment?
Sure.
This is Mary Jo.
Mary Jo.
I changed computers and now I can't find my raising my hand symbol. But anyway, I always thought of meditating like, of despair because, you had years your your meditation doesn't go well, and then more years, and then I realized it's really like going to the gym. Your brain's like a muscle and you're going to the gym, and with like going to the gym to do your workout, there's no bad workout. There's just showing up or not showing up. So
Well,
it's never going to be really better than the day before. I mean, it's just showing up. That's how you do it successfully, is you show up and you do it.
That's an excellent point. You can't do this wrong. And so we have this tendency to judge ourselves, and part of this is letting go of that judgment. And some days you might be sitting by the stream and leaves go by and you have no thought. And some days you've got 1,000 thoughts. And it doesn't really matter. It's just about putting them on a leaf and letting them go. So, let's see. Well, I'm almost out of time. So I thought I'd leave you with, in case somebody wants a meditation, because people like new meditations, I'll give you the one that I liked, that when I was going through training in dialectical behavioral therapy that Marsha Lenahan led us through. And this one's real easy. You just breathe in, breathe out, and then you say 1. And you breathe in, breathe out, and you say 2. And you breathe in, breathe out, and you say 3. And you keep going until you get to 10. When you get to 10, you breathe in and breathe out and say 9. And then you go on down to 1. And then you start again from 1 and go to 10 and 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, I don't know about you, but here's what happens. You start thinking about, oh, what am I going to have for dinner? Or I really need to get to the store because I'm out of apples. I am out of apples, by the way. So I have to get to the store. But you start having thoughts like that, and then you lose track of where you are. And so you know what you do when you lose track of where you are? Go back to 1 and start all over. It doesn't matter. Just really doesn't matter, as long as you're sitting there for whatever length of time you decide you're going to sit there. And oh, by the way, if you're going to meditate for 5 minutes or you're going to meditate for 5 hours, always set your phone to go off at the end of the time. And the reason that you do that is that when you first start meditating, you'll find that you'll say, okay, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And then you'll start wondering, well, this is going on forever. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to handle this. And so you'll take a peek at your watch, and then you'll find out that, well, you've only been doing it for 3 minutes. And so that's why we set our timer and we just let it go off at the end of the time and take a deep breath and then open our eyes. So whatever kind of meditation you're doing, whether you're using a particular word or you're saying peace or shanti or whatever, just remember, set your timer and just keep going until it goes off. Okay? All right. I guess my time is up. So any other questions or?
No, Steve, really appreciate. I think we're all a little bit more relaxed than we started. So
Okay.
appreciate that and the different techniques. I mean, that was a 3 wonderful experiences that I can really take away. So thank you again for your time and saying yes. And sharing your final bio, which was amazing, getting to know you on a different level. So appreciate that.
That's good. You learned a lot more than you really needed to know in the beginning. But anyway, I'm sure you read them anyhow. All right, so I'm going to sign off because I have to get to the Franciscan Renewal Center. I've got some clients this afternoon.
All right, thank
So
you,
thank you
Steve.
very much for your attention, and I'll see you at the next time when I have to be a seroptimister.
All right,
Thank you, Steve. That was awesome.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, Wendy, I believe that's the end of our time. So,
Yes, it was. I hope everyone has a beautiful Thursday and we'll keep in touch. I hope you guys also saw my email about perhaps catching Lily this weekend. If you're interested, I would be open to any time slot available at Shea. And actually, if I could have Lisa, if you could forward my email to Morgan in case you want to join us.
Oh, will do.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a
bye.
beautiful day. Goodbye.
Thanks.